The rain hammered against the windows of my childhood home in Denver as I sat across from my parents at our dining table. After 6 years in the Air Force and 2 tours overseas, I wasn't the same 18-year-old who had left this house. "Sarah, you're 28 years old," my father said sternly. "It's time to get a real job. Come work for my company." My mother nodded. 6 years playing soldier is enough. We've arranged a marketing position for you." I kept my composure, thinking about my recent promotion to staff sergeant and my upcoming technical sergeant review. I love what I do. I'm considering making this a 20-year career. My father's face reddened. "A career? Do you know how embarrassing it is when people ask what our daughter does?" "I'm not playing anything, Dad. This is my life." My mother leaned forward with that manipulative tone I remembered. "We've supported you long enough. College, care packages, insurance supplements. This has to stop. We're cutting you off," my father announced. "No more financial support. If you want to throw your life away on military nonsense, you'll do it without our help." I stood up slowly, my training keeping me controlled. "Okay, if that's how you feel, then goodbye." My mother's confident expression flickered. "Sarah, don't be ridiculous. Sit down. There's nothing left to talk about." I walked toward the door. "I love you both, but I won't let you control my life." Driving away that night, hands trembling on the steering wheel, I made myself a promise. I would prove them wrong and build a life I could be proud of, with or without their approval. If you've ever been rejected by the people who were supposed to support you unconditionally, if you know what it feels like to have your family turn their back on your dreams, then please subscribe to this channel. What I didn't know was that across the country, an elderly woman named Eleanor Hartwell was making final revisions to her will, and our paths were about to intersect in the most unexpected way. 3 years later, I was stationed at Ramstein Air Base in Germany as technical sergeant, managing logistics for humanitarian missions. I'd learned to live on my military salary and felt truly free for the first time. That October morning, I received an elegant cream-colored envelope from Eleanor Hartwell in Savannah, Georgia. "Dear Sergeant Mitchell," it began. "You don't know me, but your grandmother Clara and I were roommates at nursing school in 1952. We remained close friends until her passing 5 years ago. Grandmother Clara had been the one person who truly understood me. She'd been an army nurse during the Korean War and had always encouraged my independence. Clara spoke of you often and was so proud of your service. She worried about the tension with your parents and made me promise to look out for you. I'm 87 with no family of my own. Perhaps we could be pen pals?" Over the following months, Eleanor and I exchanged letters regularly. She told me about her life as a nurse, her travels, her charity work. She'd inherited money from her family's textile business, but lived modestly while using her wealth to help others. Through her letters, I learned stories about my grandmother's younger years that Clara had never shared. Eleanor had a way of making me feel valued and understood. She celebrated my promotions and offered wisdom without judgment. "Your grandmother always said you had an old soul," she wrote. "She believed you were destined for something special, though she worried the world might try to make you smaller." I found myself sharing fears and doubts I'd never told anyone. Eleanor's replies always came back filled with encouragement. "Never let anyone convince you that a life of service is less valuable than a life of commerce. The world needs people like you. Money is just a tool. What matters is how you use it to make the world better." I treasured these letters more than Eleanor could have known. While my own parents had written me off as a disappointment, here was someone who saw value in my choices. What I didn't know was that Eleanor was already making plans that would change everything. The call came on a Tuesday morning in March. My commander's assistant knocked on my office door, her expression somber. "Sergeant Mitchell, urgent call from the United States. Conference room B." My heart jumped, thinking of family emergencies as I hurried to take the call. "This is James Crawford, an attorney in Savannah, Georgia. I'm calling regarding Eleanor Hartwell." His formal tone told me everything before he said the words. "I'm very sorry to inform you that Miss Hartwell passed away peacefully 3 days ago. She had been battling cancer for several months, though she chose not to burden anyone with the details." The room spun around me. Eleanor, my dear friend and confidant, was gone. The woman who had filled the void left by my grandmother's death had been suffering alone while writing to me with characteristic optimism. "She never mentioned being sick," I whispered. That was typical of Eleanor. She was more concerned about others than herself. "You're mentioned prominently in her will, and your presence is required for the reading this Friday at 2 p.m. But I hardly knew her. We were just pen pals." You clearly meant a great deal to her. She spoke of you often in the final months. The flight from Germany to Georgia felt endless. Savannah was beautiful in spring, just as Eleanor had described in her letters. Mr. Crawford's office was in a restored antebellum mansion downtown. The waiting room was empty, except for me, which seemed profoundly sad. Eleanor had been such a vibrant person in her letters, yet I appeared to be her only significant heir. Mr. Crawford was distinguished with kind eyes that reminded me of Eleanor's compassionate spirit. She wanted me to tell you that knowing you these past 3 years brought her more joy than she'd experienced in decades. She said you reminded her of herself at your age, determined, principled, and unafraid to forge your own path. As he read the will, I learned about Eleanor's substantial wealth from her family's textile fortune. She'd donated millions over the years, but still accumulated an estate worth nearly $15 million. The bulk of her remaining assets, $12 million, she was leaving to me. I sat in stunned silence, staring at the document. The number felt abstract, like something from a movie, rather than real life. I don't understand, I managed to say. She barely knew me. Mr. Crawford smiled sadly. Eleanor was an excellent judge of character. She told me your letters revealed more about your true nature than most people show in a lifetime. She believed you would use this inheritance wisely. He handed me another envelope marked, "For Sarah," to be opened after the will reading. "My dearest Sarah," Eleanor's familiar handwriting began, "if you are reading this, then I have passed on, and you are learning about my final gift to you. I know this must come as a shock. Please don't feel unworthy. Your letters have shown me a young woman of extraordinary character. You chose service over comfort, integrity over convenience, principle over profit. You stood up to your parents when they tried to force you into a life that wasn't yours. This money comes with only one condition. Use it in a way that brings meaning to your life and helps others. I trust your judgment completely. Your grandmother Clara always said you had the strength to change the world. Now you have the resources to do it. Don't let anyone tell you what you should do with this gift. It's yours to use as your conscience guides you." I wiped tears from my eyes. This wasn't just money. It was a vote of confidence from someone who had believed in me when my own family couldn't. The flight back to Germany passed in a blur. For the first time in years, I could make choices based purely on what I wanted, rather than what I could afford. If you've ever felt like your whole world could change in a single moment, if you know that feeling when everything you thought you knew about your future suddenly shifts, then please subscribe to this channel. It was 3 days after my return that I finally worked up the courage to call my parents. Despite everything, part of me wanted to share this momentous news with them. My mother answered on the 3rd ring. "Hello? Mom, it's Sarah." The pause lasted several seconds. "Sarah? Oh my goodness, it's been so long. How are you, honey?" Her voice was warmer than expected, almost eager. "I'm calling with some news. Something major has happened. Are you finally ready to leave the military? Your father and I were just talking about how much we miss you." I took a deep breath. "Actually, I inherited some money, a significant amount, from a friend." Another pause. Then my mother's voice became animated. "Inherited money? How much? Who from? Sarah, this is wonderful news." I heard her calling to my father in the background. "Richard, get on the phone. Sarah inherited money." And just like that, everything became clear. After 3 years of silence, the mention of money had instantly transformed me from a disappointment back into their daughter. Within 24 hours, my parents had booked flights to Germany. They hadn't visited once during my 6 years of military service, but the prospect of my inheritance motivated them to cross the Atlantic with remarkable speed. I picked them up at Frankfurt Airport on a gray Saturday morning. 3 years had aged them both. My father's hair was completely gray, and my mother looked tired in a way expensive makeup couldn't hide. "You look wonderful, sweetheart," my mother said. "Military life really suits you." The comment stung. Military life had suited me 3 years ago too, but they'd been too busy disapproving to notice. During the drive to my apartment, they peppered me with questions about the inheritance. I answered vaguely, not ready to reveal the full scope of Eleanor's gift. "Inheriting money is a big responsibility," my father said in my living room. "It's easy to make mistakes when you're not experienced with financial management." My mother nodded enthusiastically. "We could help you invest it properly. Your father has done so well with our investments." I listened as they outlined their plans for my future again. The inheritance was obviously a sign I should leave the military and come home. They could help me buy a house, start a business, invest in my father's company. How much are we talking about exactly? My father finally asked directly. Before we talk about money, I think we need to talk about what happened between us. My mother waved dismissively. That's all in the past. We were just worried about you. You weren't just worried. You told me I was wasting my life, cut off all support, and told me I was on my own. We were trying to help you see sense, my father said, his expression hardening. And now, what's changed? This inheritance changes everything, my mother said. You have options now. I had the same options 3 years ago. The only thing that's changed is my bank account. The room fell silent. Finally, my father cleared his throat. Maybe we didn't handle things perfectly, but we're here now to help you make the most of this opportunity. I studied their faces. People who had raised me but seemed like strangers now. I could see the calculation behind their concern, the way they looked at me and saw dollar signs. The inheritance is $12 million, I said finally. My mother gasped. My father's eyes widened. 12 million? My mother whispered. You're rich. That's life-changing money, my father said in his business tone. We need to get you set up with proper financial advisors immediately. As they discussed tax implications and investment strategies, talking over each other in excitement, I felt that familiar childhood hollowness. They were planning my life without consulting me, making decisions based on what they thought was best, rather than what I wanted. The difference was that now I had the resources to make my own choices and the maturity to recognize what was happening. My parents extended their stay from a weekend to 2 weeks. Each day brought new suggestions about managing my inheritance, where I should live, what I should do with my life. We found a beautiful house in Denver, my mother announced, sliding a real estate listing across my table. 6 bedrooms, same neighborhood where you grew up. The market is perfect for buyers. I looked at the $2.8 million colonial. It was gorgeous and completely wrong for me. I don't need a 6-bedroom house. I'm one person. Think about the future. Marriage, children. It's an investment. My father looked up from his laptop. Speaking of marriage, have you thought about dating? There are successful men in Denver who would be excellent matches for someone in your position. I stared at him. My position? You're a wealthy woman now. You can afford to be selective. Find someone who brings something to the table. The casual way he discussed my romantic future as a business transaction made my stomach turn. I'm not moving to Denver, and I'm not looking for a husband based on his investment portfolio. My mother gave me that patient, condescending look from childhood. You're not thinking clearly. This inheritance is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I am being smart. I'm taking time to consider my options instead of making impulsive decisions. That evening, I called my former commander, Colonel Martinez. I needed perspective from someone who knew me well. What did you feel when you first learned about the inheritance? She asked. Free. Like I could finally make choices based on what I believed was right, not what I could afford. And now? Trapped. Like I'm 18 again, listening to them plan my life without asking what I want. The next morning, I asked my parents to sit down. I've made some decisions. First, I'm not leaving the military yet. I love my work. Second, I'm not moving to Denver based on real estate opportunities. When I relocate, it will be because I've found meaningful work. You're not thinking rationally, my mother said. The emotion of this inheritance is clouding your judgment. My judgment is fine. What's clouding this situation is your assumption that money should change everything about who I am. I pulled out Eleanor's letter and read them the passage about using the inheritance in ways that brought meaning to my life. This woman trusted me to make good decisions. She believed in my character. I won't betray that trust by letting fear or greed dictate my choices. My father's face reddened. This is exactly the idealistic thinking that got you into trouble before. My only responsibility is to honor Eleanor's faith in me and use this gift wisely. The argument was intense but brief. My parents made it clear that if I insisted on wasting my inheritance on impractical idealism, they would withdraw their support again. Then I guess we're back where we started. I won't let anyone control my life with money, not even my own money. They left the next morning. My mother cried while my father maintained cold silence. As their taxi disappeared, I felt the same mixture of sadness and relief from 3 years earlier. But this time was different. This time, I had Eleanor's gift, and the knowledge that someone had believed I could make good decisions on my own. If you've ever had to choose between your family's approval and your own dignity, if you know what it's like to stand up for yourself even when it costs you everything, then please subscribe to this channel. 6 months later, I sat in a Savannah cafe with James Crawford and 3 young veterans. The lawyer looked pleased as he reviewed our paperwork. The Eleanor Hartwell Foundation for Military Families is officially established. Sarah, Eleanor would be so proud. I'd decided to finish my military commitment, but use Eleanor's inheritance to start something meaningful. The foundation would provide financial support and career counseling to military families, focusing on service members transitioning to civilian life. The 3 veterans with us were our first beneficiaries: Marcus starting nursing school, Jessica launching a veterans nonprofit, and David, whose wife was pursuing her teaching degree. "I still can't believe this is real," Jessica said. "It's real, and it's going to keep growing. Every dollar we invest creates ripple effects that help entire communities." After the meeting, I walked to the cemetery where Eleanor was buried. Her simple headstone reflected her elegant character. I sat on the nearby bench and checked my phone. My parents had been trying to reconcile for months, ever since word got out about the foundation. Suddenly, their friends were praising their daughter's philanthropic work, and they wanted to be associated with my success again. "We'd love to help with your foundation," my father's latest email read. "We have connections in Denver who could provide valuable support." I deleted it without responding, just like the previous dozen. Some relationships couldn't be repaired with money, not even $12 million. A new message appeared from Colonel Martinez. "Saw the news article about the foundation. Eleanor would be proud. Your grandmother would be proud. I'm proud of you." That message I saved. As the sun set over Savannah, I thought about the strange journey that brought me here. 3 years ago, I'd been disowned for choosing service over their vision of success. Now I had more money than I'd dreamed of, but more importantly, the freedom to use it according to my values. My phone rang. My mother's number. After hesitating, I answered. "Hi, Mom. Sarah, I owe you an apology. Your father and I have always wanted the best for you, but maybe we've been defining best by our standards instead of yours. This foundation you've started, it's really something special." Her voice sounded different, less calculated. "I don't expect forgiveness right away, but I want you to know we're proud of you, not because of the money, but because of what you're doing with it." I felt tears forming. "Mom, let me finish. I know we hurt you badly, and trust has to be earned back. But if you're willing, we'd like to try rebuilding our relationship as your parents who love and support your choices, whatever they are." Looking at Eleanor's headstone, I thought about forgiveness and second chances, about the difference between loving someone and trying to control them. "I'd like that, Mom. It won't be easy, and it can't go back to the way things were. I understand. We'll earn your trust back, however long it takes." After hanging up, I sat in the gathering darkness, thinking about families, money, and the choices that define us. Eleanor's inheritance had changed my life, but not in the ways my parents expected. It hadn't made me a different person. It had given me the resources to be more fully myself. Tomorrow, I would return to Germany to continue my service. In 2 years, I would face another crossroads. But this time, I would decide with confidence, knowing I was trusted and valued by people who believed in my ability to choose wisely. Eleanor's gift would keep giving long after the money was spent, in the lives it touched and dreams it made possible. And maybe my relationship with my parents could become another kind of inheritance, one built on love and respect rather than conditions. Walking back to my hotel, I felt the deep satisfaction of living aligned with my values. Eleanor had been right. The world needed people who chose purpose over profit. And with her help, I was finally free to be exactly that person. Listen, if this story touched your heart in any way, if you saw yourself in my journey or felt like you're not alone in your struggles, I have one simple request for you. Most people who listen to these stories don't subscribe to the channel, but that's literally the only help I need from you, and it's completely free. Eleanor believed in me when nobody else did. She gave me a chance. Now I'm asking you to give me that same chance. Subscribe to this channel, because when you do that, you're telling me that these stories matter, that it's worth continuing to share experiences that can touch and transform lives. It's just one click. But for me, it means I can keep being that voice for people who, just like me, need to know they're not alone. Subscribe now.